Tasya Ananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vancha kalpatarubhyasya kripa sindhuvecha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So welcome back to the Sri Harinama Cintamani series. We have been discussing chapter 13. Today is probably the last class and the last section what we will be discussing in chapter 13. We saw in yesterday's class Bhakti Vinod Thakur is very, very emphatic. So I will just, before I summarize what I discussed in the last class, let me see from the audience how much you were able to catch what we discussed yesterday. So my question is it possible just by chanting Namaprad, we can go back to Godhead? Who would like to answer? Is it possible that if we are following the four regulative principles, chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra at the Namaprad stage, is it possible to go back to Godhead? Yes, Sunita Mataji?
No, Prabhuji.
No. So that we should register now in our mind. If we don't register this, then we will not make any efforts in really working on attentive chanting. So this is the first point to be known. The second question is, one verse Bhaktivinoda Thakur dedicates, what is the skill in performing bhajan? What is the basic skill, most important skill in performing bhajan so that we can ultimately attain the goal, that is bhava and then prema? What is the skill? Anyone would like to answer? Virendra Yadav Prabhuji, let us see what about others. Okay, Virendra Yadav Prabhuji, yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. It's Prabhuji, to renounce the 10 offenses and chant the holy name is considered the most skill job. Renounce the
Yes,
10 offenses and chant the holy name without
yes,
any offenses.
yes, excellent. Yes, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Dasha Aparadha Chadi Namera Grahan, Iha Naipunya Hoy Sadhana Bhajan. What is the skill? To renounce the 10 offenses. So yesterday we had a discussion on what is the seriousness of committing these offenses. One has to be greedy, lobe has to come. Why this lobe will not come to us? Because we are absorbed, the chit is absorbed in the mode of passion and ignorance, and we are still not in the mode of goodness. And at least we should work on uh, uh, having or doing our activities in the mode of goodness, having food in the mode of goodness, that is prasad, all our activities. The external, at least, we should try to mold our life to be in the mode of goodness. And then our devotion is steady, and from goodness, we can go to the transcendental goodness. So, only when we come to the stage of Nishta, when the senses and mind are controlled, then we don't commit these 10 offenses. So, this is also a very important point to be known, that we actually commit offenses because we are not, we have no control over our senses and mind. Uh, that is why we commit this offense. And one aparad, satarka hoya. Satarka means one offense. Each of the offenses, we should carefully study them and carefully avoid them by implementing the 10 positive applications which we discussed. To blaspheme or criticize Vaishnavas is the first offense, Vaishnav Ninda. So, how to counteract? To genuinely appreciate the Vaishnavas. Ek aparadha satark hoya, yatane chadi. We should endeavor to give up this. And then surrender to the holy name and pray to the holy name to become free from offenses. And you know, offenses to the holy names get destroyed, you need not do any other prashchit. So that was what we discussed yesterday. Today we will discuss the last section, which is from 56 to 60. This is the last section today. I will discuss few verses and then we will see the points from this PowerPoint. There is one hand raised by Satananda Chaitanya Prabhuji. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes.
I have a question. Now, we were discussing that point that just by chanting 16 rounds and following 4 regulative principles, without attentive chanting, we cannot attain Krishna Prem, and we should avoid the 10 offenses, right?
Yes.
But one of the offenses, the third offense, is that Guru Avagya is one of the 10 offenses, and the Guru's instruction is that you should chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles. So how do we understand that? Is it interlinked? Like, it is part of the instruction, right?
Yes, you chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 regular principles are the vows which we take at the time of initiation. So to chant 16 rounds means to chant 16 rounds attentively.
Okay.
Or to chant 16 good rounds. And that's where it doesn't end. Prabhupada, if you repeatedly study his purports, he doesn't mention 16 rounds. He says at least 16 rounds, minimum 16 rounds. That means as we work on our chanting, especially attentive chanting, slowly the taste will come. Kintu adarat anudinam kalu saiva jushtad swadvi kramat, as Nectar of Instruction text 6 or 7 says. So taste will come, then you will increase your chanting. And that's how we will be able to come out of the tight grip of Maya, as we are discussing the modes. So we have to, at a particular time in our spiritual life, take the inner battle of the heart, fighting the modes within. And that can happen that fight with the Maya is only possible by surrender. Devi Esha Gunamayi Mama Maya Durataya Mameva Prapadyante. So that's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying surrender to the holy name. So we have to understand that it's not just chanting anyhow 16 rounds and just following the regulative principles casually and we will make it in spiritual life. No, it's not possible like that. I hope it is clear, Prabhuji.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you. Haribol.
Yeah. So let us now go to section 56 to 60. Now Bhaktivinoda Thakur is giving a very important theme to discuss, that is the way to renounce the offenses. Everyone would like to know Nam Aprada Parityagera Upay. Yes, no, so serious is the offense that you will not attain Krishna Prem. How do I give up this offenses? So I will discuss first text 56 to 58, and then we will look into the points in the slides, and then we will go to 59 to 60 because they are prayers to Mahaprabhu. Avishranta name nama aparadayaya tahe aparada kabustana nahi paya. The offenses cannot stay with a person who untiringly strives to avoid them. Avishranta name nam aparadayaya. Avishranta means one who untiringly strives to avoid the offense. Tahe aparad kabustana nahi. So the offenses don't stay with him. That is the point. That means we have to untiringly strive to avoid these 10 offenses. Now there's a footnote, very interesting footnote. When a person performs material activities with the material body, one must eventually become fatigued. Spiritual activities are different. By appealing to the holy name with heartfelt words, one can destroy his offenses to the holy name. One cannot destroy these offenses merely by performing material pious deeds or by performing activities of atonement, prashchitta. So the only way is that we should beseech Nam Prabhu so that I can become free from these offenses. Divaratri namalay anutapa kore tabe aparadayaya nama phale dhare. Diva means in the day, Ratra means night. Day and night one should chant the holy name. So you can see how clear is Bhaktivinoda Thakur or Haridas Thakur mentioning to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Namalay anutap kare. How one should take the name? One should feel remorse for his offenses. Now, this is a very important meditation and a kind of an exercise, which again I'm repeating here. We are not conscious that what kind of offenses we have committed with the beginning of our devotional service, or what offense we might have committed even yesterday also. we are not conscious about it, and we can realize that when we chant our holy names, there is no taste. So that means a lot of offenses have piled up in the chitta. There's a huge pile of offenses which is blocking us to taste the holy name. So we should definitely understand, yes, I don't have the symptoms of Ashta Shattvik Vikar manifesting when I take the holy name of Krishna. It is because of offenses. So it is a good meditation or a good exercise that we write down in our notebooks. Oh, how I have been attracted to Maya since I attained puberty. Shankaracharya says, Bal avastha krida sakta, Tarun avastha taruni asakta. So attraction towards Maya, this is one just example I'm giving. Attraction towards Maya is there. So how I've been attracted to Maya and somehow now have developed attraction to the beautiful forms of Radha and Krishna. So just go back in the reel of your life and note down, and then uh, reflecting upon these points what you make in your notebook in the exercise. This will act as a meditation tool to feel remorseful that instead of giving my heart to my lordships Radha and Krishna, I have invested my heart in Maya and I've only suffered. So like that, these kind of meditations help us to feel remorseful while chanting Anuta. And this is the only medicine by which we can absolve ourselves from the offenses and come to Namabhas or steady chanting. This is a very important meditation, and the more devotees start doing this, you will see your chanting is going to take, it is going to some different level, a higher level. You can experience that. Another example of meditation and exercises, uh, since the beginning of your spiritual life or even before, how you have heard other devotees or you have heard people in general. If you have heard people in general, that is pap. If you have heard devotees, Vaishnavas, it is aparadh. That's how serious it is. So make a list and really work on it. It's not too late. Even if somebody have committed offense few years back, you can always approach him and ask forgiveness. So it is very important. In fact, it is said that the moment you commit an offense, immediately, not too long, maybe 1, 2, or maximum 3 days, we should immediately uh, uh, ask forgiveness from that Vaishnava and become free from that offense. So even if you have committed many years back, still we can write in our exercise notebook how we have heard Vaishnavas and cause trouble to them. So like that, when we make the exercise and meditate upon it and then chant, we can chant in a remorseful heart, Anutap, with Anutap. This naturally happens for a sadhaka who has crossed anarthivriti and he's on the stage of Nishta, because his heart is quite purified. And being purified at this level, he in his mind screen, by the mercy of the super soul, he's given a trailer of all these things, and he genuinely from the heart feels this Anutap. But those who have not crossed Anarth Nivriti and they are sadhakas who are practicing anishtita bhajan kriya, it is not, we will not be shown this trailer. So we'll have to make our own trailer by doing this exercise. It's a very important, very, very important exercise we need to do. Now, I'll tell you my personal example. From the deep core of my heart, I feel that I have hurt uh, a person in my life very badly, and it is before coming to Krishna consciousness. And somehow, after many years in my chanting, suddenly this image came in my mind, and I felt very remorseful. And I wanted to ask forgiveness after so many years. The incident is maybe 25 years back when I was in my college. So not 25, yeah, almost, yeah, 24 years back. And now I've been still searching for that person when I can meet and actually ask forgiveness. So this is a very important sadhana. Sadhakas have to do it as an exercise, because it naturally doesn't happen for us to chant with Anuta, because in the mind screen we cannot see these images or this reel. Thus all offenses will flee away and one will realize the fruit of chanting of the Holy Name. Tabe aparadayaya nama phala dhare. Tabe means only then. Only then when you chant like this with Anutap, then you will get the phala, fruit of chanting the holy name. Aparada gate shuddha namera uday shuddha nama bhavamaya ara premamaya. See, what will be the result if you chant with Anutap? When the offenses have fled, aparada gata shuddha namera uday. Pure chanting of the holy name arises. So, Namaprad stage you will cross. You will quickly come to the Namabha stage. From Namabhas, Shuddhanama is very near. Now, somewhere I heard, I've still not come across the quote, but definitely I'm sure it is a genuine citation, I can say. Prabhupada himself, now Prabhupada, one thing we should remember, he's a Nitya Siddha coming from the spiritual world, but the pastime of he joining Scottish British College, meeting Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, being in the Grahastha life, managing his business, both day laboratory, and going through the struggles. All that is orchestrated by Krishna just for us to set an example that even we have to go through this. Prabhupada need not have to go through. He's an eternal liberated soul. He never forgot Krishna even for a moment. So Prabhupada himself said that it took me 30 years to cross the Namaprad stage. 30 years. Prabhupada in 1922 met Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he took up to the chanting of the holy names. In 1933, Prabhupada got initiated after 11 years. Please remember, the first and second initiation immediately Prabhupada got. And Prabhupada, even in his Grahastha years, used to continue to chant. So from 1922, 1932, 42, 52, so around 55, you can say 33 years, 1955, Prabhupada moved to Vrindavan. So 55 to 59, he was living the Vanaprastha life. And then he took sannyas. I think 55 only he took sannyas. I don't recollect the dates now. So in Vrindavan, Prabhupada was chanting every day 64 rounds in the Radha Damodar temple. Every day he was chanting 64 rounds. And not even once Srila Prabhupada honored the Mahaprasad which is offered to Radha Damodar. Not even once he honored that prasad. He used to either do some madhukari or he used to cook his own prasad. That's one thing. Again, I am telling this is a pastime. In 1927, Srila Prabhupada happened to come to Vrindavan, and he stayed for 7 or 10 days on the Radha Madan Mohan temple, that is at the Dwadash Aditya Tila, the small mountain which is near Keshi Ghat. So there, Prabhupada just sat there chanting the holy names. And the Mahanta, the Pujari, in his realizations in one of his books, he says, in glorification of Srila Prabhupada, I saw that your founder Acharya, I observed him very carefully. He did not move his hand out of the beads. For 7 or 10 days, he was simply absorbed in chanting. He never went for any parikrama, never went for any darshan. He was just on the hill. Sometimes he used to just on the hill have the darshan of the Yamuna which is flowing there. That's it. And a little bit honored prasad, and he was day and night chanting the holy names. So these both pastimes of Prabhupada saying that it took him 30 years to cross the Namaprad stage, and at the same time I'm narrating this pastime where Prabhupada had so much taste for chanting that 7 days he was just, or 10 days he was simply absorbed in chanting. So for sadhakas, we should understand Namaprad is a long stage in our spiritual life. Now, how long you want to keep it, it is to us. By taking up to attentive chanting, trying to lead a sattvic life. By purely chanting the holy name, Shuddhanam, one attains ecstasy. bhavamaya, and then pure love, or a premamaya for Lord arises. So, simple solution. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying to become free from the offenses. So let us see the points from the slides now. Yes. Okay. The way to renounce offenses. The opening lines of these texts are very significant. Offenses to the holy name of the Lord are dissolved solely through constant chanting. It's constant chanting. Then further, these texts state constant chanting means apart from a minimal time for rest and other bare physical necessities, one should chant throughout all hours of the day with intense contrition. Contrition means again with remorseful heart. These words are very significant for our advancement in devotional service and are self-explanatory. But often we choose to ignore them because it means a great deal of surrender. So we have this mentality that, when it is said, oh, then better ignore it, because it demands surrender. They are similar to the instructions Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave earlier, that a devotee starts by chanting 1 hour and then increases until he chants no less than 3 lakhs of names per day. So this he has spoken again, if you see in chapter 12. But again, we'll not go to this 3 lakhs per day. Let us go to chanting 1 attentive round and making it a granthi of 4 attentive rounds, then 8, 12, and 16. If we can come to 16 good or attentive rounds, slowly, over a period of years, Krishna will reciprocate and you will find time to chant more rounds. Seeing our inability to focus and remain attentive, Srila Prabhupada reduced the 64 rounds chanted by previous aspirants on the spiritual path to 16. We know all that pastime, it is there in the Lilamrit. He did this out of his great compassion for our fallen condition. But at the same time, he stressed, this is the minimum, but actually a devotee chants constantly. So you go through many of the purports in the Bhagavatam or in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada will repeatedly hit on this point, hammer on this point, devotee chants constantly. This is the minimum. This is the minimum. By these two statements, Srila Prabhupada made it possible for anyone to become eligible for initiation into Krishna's family of devotees. At the same time, indicated that if one is serious about going back to Godhead, one must go deeper and chant more. Sri Harinama Cintamani hereby gives strict instructions that offenses are dissolved solely through constant chanting, and that constant chanting means, except for the essentials, we should be bringing the mind back to the point of reference, Krishna, throughout the 24 hours of the day. And by remembering Krishna's name, we become purified of the offenses. Now, I'll tell you something what I experienced about this. Many feel that, chanting 64 rounds or throughout the day being engaged is not practical. What you're speaking is not practical for me, Prabhu, I remember I have a very close friend. He's a businessman in Bangalore. He's a hardcore businessman, you can say. He's initiated and he's also practicing spiritually, but at heart is very good. Although he's not still now serious, I usually be in touch with him. So once I was in Calcutta, Calcutta is his hometown. He very humbly requested me to go and visit his parents. So I surrendered to his request and I went to their house. And his family house is on one side, and he's got another house on the right side only. Just like there is a steps in the left is, all the family members, his sons, wife, children all stay, sons, wife and all. On the right side, he's got a house, and I saw something very mystical. That house was like a long temple hall, and there were the deities. And when I entered there, I felt I was in Vrindavan because it was a Vrindavan atmosphere there. And I saw uh, this businessman's father, whom I never knew. He was quite old because he had retired. He was also a very big businessman. He had retired. And he was full-time doing deity worship, full-time doing deity worship. Uh, and his bed was just in the temple hall, just a small mattress, that's it. And his wife was full-time cooking for the deities. All 6 offerings she was cooking, and she was chanting 64 rounds. Husband was just doing deity worship and chanting 64 rounds. And I was really impressed. This is what, if we sincerely practice, Krishna will arrange the end of our life or at a particular time that we can increase our rounds and become purified, because that's the way by which we can go back to Godhead. It is also nice to know that these offenses never come back if we take the time to chant continuously. Yeah, Nirantar Naam Loe, and then these offenses will not come back. So now an issue arises between preaching service and constant chanting bhajan, or Goshtanandi versus Bhajananandi. So what to do about this? How do we strike a balance? Firstly, we understand that service, preaching and chanting are all forms of Sankirtan. So when they are performed correctly, everything is fine. Everything is fine. Problem comes into play when an aspiring devotee attempts to perform service, but because his mind is polluted, his thoughts and mind are engrossed in material consciousness. In this instance, we see that performing strict daily sadhana is a path that gradually uplifts one consciousness. However, we often see that at one point stagnation arises. So what to do at this time? So sometimes our chanting, Prabhupada said 90% of our advancement in Krishna consciousness is based on chanting. If we do our chanting properly, then the seva also we will do very consciously. And that seva fruit will be that we will chant also properly. But if we focus on the seva and neglect our chanting, that seva, although it is devotional service, that seva will slowly start becoming mundane because it doesn't have the backing or the power of chanting. So everything is centered on the chanting, our seva, our preaching. If we are doing good preaching, but if we are neglecting our chanting, then that's also not nice. Sometimes devotees are nice kirtaniyas and they do a lot of kirtan, but it is important that they also do their chanting. Otherwise, that kirtan will not have impact on transformation, what is expected in the heart of the audience. So like that, everything is centered on chanting. We should understand why stagnation and even sliding backwards occurs. It is because of offenses. So sometimes we see at a particular point in the spiritual life, I'm not able to go ahead. What is happening? What's going wrong? You might think. Just like, you're driving a car and your one leg is on the accelerator. So car is going ahead, but you have the other leg, that is the brake. You put in the brakes. The car doesn't move ahead. So this brake is like the offenses. So when we commit offenses, it's like a break in our spiritual life. We have put a brake and we are not moving ahead. So moment we realize that I'm not moving ahead. So first thing is, yes, it is because of offenses. That's how we should understand. Offenses to the holy name cause weakness of the heart, which leads to more offenses, stagnation, and even sliding backwards. So please remember, when we are doing bhajan kriya, it's like a graph. We are trying to go up, or we are trying to bicycle and go up the mountain. And we are going ahead, we are putting in our efforts, but if we do offenses, slowly we start gliding down. We start gliding down. We should remember this. In fact, offenses are so severe that Mahaprabhu compares them to Hati Mata. It is a mad elephant offense, which can uproot the entire garden, uproot the Bhakti Lata itself. So sometimes the offense is so severe that somebody is, at a particular stage in his bhajan kriya, we don't know what, he must have practiced 30% of his spiritual life or 40%. And his offenses are so strong, he commits such a severe aparadh that, it's a mad elephant offense, and it goes and destroys the Bhakti Lata. So the Bhakti Lata itself is uprooted. So he's out from spiritual life. He's back in the material life. Now, for such a person, it becomes difficult again to come back to devotional service in this life. It becomes very difficult. And then what to speak, coming again back, again in the association, again he has to get Shraddha. He has to associate with sadhus and do sadhu sang. Again he has to start his bhajan of chanting the holy names. Now he has glided down, but to start back, it's not again the same glide. It is again a little difficult because of his offenses. So usually when the offense is very serious, he in this life cannot again take back to devotional service. And what is the example you can give from the Srimad Bhagavatam to substantiate this point? Anyone can give an example of the pastime in the Srimad Bhagavatam where there is a pastime where one personality offended a great Vaishnava, and because of that offense, he could not, in the next life only, he suffered also in the next life. Also, he could not take up to devotional service. Anyone knows? Anyone knows which pastime from the Bhagavatam which I'm referring to? You can raise your hands. Yes, yes, Sunita Mataji. I have 1 minute today.
Vritrasura offended Lord Shiva?
No, Vritrasura did not offend Lord Shiva. First of all, we have to understand this. It is mentioned by Vishnu Chakra Thakur that Chitraketu was in the stage of prema only, and it was the Lord's arrangement. It was just what it is called, the term in English. It was not a real offense. It was not exactly an offense. Because you see, in the body of Vritrasur, although he was in a demonic body, he had prema for the Lord. And his prema manifests in this famous 4 verses of the Bhagavatam, which is considered even the essence of the Bhagavatam. So if he had committed an offense from the prema, you can come down. So he did not come down. So it was not actually an offense. That is a deeper import Vishwanath Chakra Thakur mentions. Even Jay and Vijay, in one sense, did not commit offense to the 4 Kumaras, because it was the Lord's desire that I want to enjoy Viryas, and Jay and Vijay had a desire to, facilitate that, but they cannot have enmity towards the Lord because they had deep love. So the Lord inspired the 4 Kumaras And so the Lord inspired the Kumaras to, the Jay and Vijay to stop the four Kumaras, and the Lord inspired the four Kumaras to curse them. And that's why Jay and Vijay came down. They are actually, Amshas came down. The original personalities were there. The Amshas came down to participate in the pastimes here in this world. So I'm not speaking about that offense. I'm not speaking about that. Yes, Praveen has to answer. Yes.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Hare Krishna. Yeah. I think one of the devotee, he glanced at the woman. So I think for that the penalty was there. So I don't know the name. So
I'm not referring to that. Anyone else from the Bhagavatam? Very famous pastime. It's from the 4th canto. I'm giving a hint. Anyone knows? It is Daksha. Daksha offended Shiva, and Shiva is a Mahabhagavat, Vaishnavana Meta Shambhu. And the offense was so severe that he was killed. But later on, he was revived with the goat's body, and then he left that body. In the 6th canto, again, Daksha is reborn. And because he had not sufficiently done anutap, regretted for his offense, even in that second body as Daksha, he again committed an offense to Narad Muni. He cursed Narad Muni also. There is a pastime of, this is the most famous pastime. This is what I'm referring, that you slide back. And when you commit offense, in this life, it becomes difficult for you to again take up to devotional service. In the next life, it becomes still, the slope becomes still steeper or still difficult for us. So that is the severity of committing offenses. As we have described in the previous commentary, a devotee should not give in to the dictations of the mind and senses, but instead, when he feels offensive behavior rising in his mind, he should chant more and more. Moment that offensive behavior or an offensive mentality starts creeping in, we should have a healthy fear and immediately hold on to our beats and chant with a remorseful heart. In this way, when trouble arises, he fights back by doubling and even tripling his daily quota of rounds. This protects the devotee when hard times come up upon him due to weakness of heart caused by previous offenses and tests. So previous offenses, and Krishna also tests us sometimes. Krishna tests us for many reasons. One is to know that, oh, still your disease is deep-rooted. Work on it, my dear Prabhu. Or to lift us up so that, test is the best way to know how we are performing. That's why tests are conducted. So Krishna will give a test according to our level. If he gives a very high test, then we'll leave devotional service. So Krishna will give a test according to our level. It is either meant to take us one step up, higher in the advancement, or we might go one step down and start working more deeper to come up. So in both ways, Krishna is helping us, whether in that test we fail or we pass. This is very important to be understood. When the Lord sees the devotee's sincere efforts, he blesses his devotee, protecting him and removing the anarthas that prevent him from progressing. Shunvatam Sakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridantastohya Bhadrani Vidunoti Surit Satam. When Krishna sees that we are hearing very attentively Krishna Katha, Shunvatam Sakata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridantastohya Bhadrani. The heart, these abhadras are there. Vidunoti. Krishna cleanses them because he is Surit Satam. Surit means He is a heart-to-heart friend. This is the secret of how a devotee regains his good fortune. But what to do from here to prevent the same thing happening again? Srila Prabhupada gave many processes for upliftment and possibilities for service. But in the past, the sadhaka understands that because of his anarthas and offenses, these did not allow the devotee to continuously advance. This time, he may choose to implement a new addition to his path of sadhana in order to progress faster, away from the pulling power of Maya and the stumbling blocks imposed by his previous conditioning. At this point, if a devotee is intelligent, he calls for time out with Maya and he seeks refuge in the Lord's holy name in one of the Lord's holy dhams. So we have been given, Srila Prabhupada has given unlimited services for us to do. And while executing this service, we usually commit a lot of offenses. And that is like sliding back. And we still hold on to devotional service and our sadhana and our engagement. But sometimes it is better to sometimes make a move to some other service where you are comfortable so that you don't commit offenses and you can advance quickly. Or sometimes it is better to move not to a different type of service, but a different location. So here that location is mentioned. Sometimes we can take gap in 3 months once we come to the holy dham just to sit and chant and absorb ourselves in the dham atmosphere. This regularly sadhaka should do. However, he must be very careful when he enters the holy name, the holy dham, because he is carrying Maya within his head. So he has every chance to simply replicate what he had previously done wrong. That is, such a devotee may have all good intentions to seek refuge in the holy name and the dham, but when he gets there, he finds many nice people who engage him in political and topical conversations. So we are carrying our own garbage in our head. Even when we come to the holy dham, that same mentality is there and the same fault-finding mentality with other devotees there. You have still rasa for mundane topics and you might get that association and you might do that. And if you do that in the dham, that is still more detrimental to our spiritual life. So we should be very, very careful. That's why I was mentioning initially, few days we come to the dham, absorb ourselves in chanting and then go back. And like that, over a period of years, it will start bearing fruits. The idea is as follows. There are many nice people who live in the vicinity of the holy dhams, but these people simply live on the surface of the dham and never enter into the full mood of the dham. One must therefore diligently avoid the company of prachitra devotees. It is prakrita devotees, prakrita devotees, materialistic prakrita devotees, that is materialistic devotees, and beg to enter into the mood of the residents of the dham via hearing from the sadhus who live there. So we come to the dham not to take darshan of the dham. What darshan we can take from our eyes? We come to the dham just to associate with sadhus and hear. This is the main purpose why we come to the dham. Hear from the sadhus, hear the holy name. This does not mean that you talk to the local chaiwalas, but that you seek the company of exalted devotees by a service, hearing, chanting, and friendship. It is not that saintly devotees once lived in the dham and have now ascended to the spiritual world. No, they are living there now. You can find them in person, in their books, and in your meditations. A Vaishnava, while living, he's preaching the holy name, and when he leaves this world also, it's not that he dies. He always is eternal and he's there in his Vani. and he can give darshan also in our meditations. From time to time, these saintly souls who seek aspiring devotees sincerely trying to uplift themselves come down to help. And how that help will come, we don't know. In this way, when you enter the Dham to seek refuge from Maya, remember to leave Maya behind. Similarly, when a devotee attempts to seek refuge in Krishna's holy name and increases his daily quota of rounds, he may face a problem within his mind. That is, he has another person living within his mind who talks constantly about material affairs that are often tainted with lust and self-aggrandizement. So, who is this another person which is spoken here? Anyone would like to answer? Raise your hands. Who is this another person? Who is this another person living within us? Anyone? Yes. Yes, Sunita Mataji.
The mind of the person.
Yes. The mind of the person. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in one of his bhajans says, Manera Manush. Manera Manush. So he personifies the mind as a person. So sometimes to deal with the mind, we should personify him. Just like I give an example, like you are going in a car through the jungle and suddenly you see a very dark personality, very horrifying personality asking for a lift, and somehow you give him a lift and he's sitting next to you and you are driving way through the jungle, inside deep dark jungle to go to a temple, but then he starts dictating, why don't we go inside the jungle? There is a lot of place for enjoyment there. He starts dictating. So you don't know that person. You will not immediately accept that proposal. You will carefully evaluate with your intelligence the proposal, because he is a person who is not known to us. But the problem with this Manera Manush is that this person is within us and we identify with this person always. So whatever this person says, just follow him. We are completely obedient to the mind. We are completely surrendered to the mind. Manera Manush. So Srila Prabhupada says we should not hear the dictations of the mind. We should not hear the dictations of the mind. So this is how another person living within us gives us trouble. Just like the Dharma Dwaji, it's a Dharma Dwaji, sorry again, whose association should be avoided. Similarly, within the mind, the association of the false ego should be avoided. When going to the Dham, one can become purified by listening to the words of the sadhus and taking bath in the holy rivers. And when chanting, one can become purified by bathing in the holy name of Krishna. As one progresses, the Lord will mercifully demonstrate to the sadhaka his fallen condition. And when sobriety dawns on the horizon of the sadhaka's consciousness, he will understand just how sinful he is. Sorry, it is. He is, it is. He is. This is Dharma Dwaji. Dharma Dwaja. So if we are sincere, then this will happen. I mentioned that when Anarth Nivriti happens and the mind Nashta Prayashu Abhadreshu has almost happened, then Stitve Sattvam Prasidati, you are situated in the mode of goodness, then Krishna will show you the real. And then we understand. And then we actually sing Amara Jivan Sada Pape Rata. Nahi koi punyara lesh. Genuinely from the core of our heart, we lament and cry. And that is the time purification begins. And you can cross the Namaprad stage, come to the Namabha stage, and quickly go to the Shuddhanam stage. So It's very important that we understand this important phase of transformation which can happen in our life. Amar Jivan, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, just like in the house or in the temple, every day with the broomstick we clean so that there is no dirt. Similarly, we should clean our heart by every day singing this song, Amara Jivan. Such an important song it is. Srila Prabhupada has sung this song, and along with that, he has given a short explanation of the song. Devotees as a sadhana should regularly do this. And you will observe when you regularly hear this, this what instruction or what the bhajan is saying, it will never enter our heart because we don't feel like that, because our consciousness is still steeped in Maya. But once the consciousness is elevated, oh, this is what I am, you will identify, oh, this is what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is speaking. He's speaking about me, that conditioned soul. Then we regret and lament. And in this mood, when we chant, we can become free from the offenses. In his heart, he will naturally feel very remorseful in his behavior, and thus his heart will be full of contrition. Contrition, as I mentioned, remorseful heart. Or anutap. Anutap is actually contrition. As he repents his abominable activities and fervently begs for the Lord's mercy, such a sadhaka will chant the holy name of the Lord constantly with the correct feelings of contrition in the heart. This whole points in the PowerPoint are discussion of that remorseful heart which Anutap, Bhaktivinoda Thakur spoke in the first verse of Harinama Cintamani. To get to this realization, however, requires the Lord's mercy. Therefore, prayer and constant chanting are prescribed as a designated path to receive the mercy of Sri Ram Prabhu. Okay, any questions regarding this, what we discussed? Any questions, any clarifications? Now, before I take the questions, let me see. There are only 2 more or 3 more slides which I want to finish. Yeah, I would like to finish. Can I take these 3 slides and then take up questions? We can go question answers a little more later on. But just these 3 slides are there, which will finish the entire 13th chapter today. So I will take the slides. Please make a mental note of your question. And after this discussion, we will take up. Okay. Now, prayers are required was mentioned. Now that prayer, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is speaking about 58, 59, 60. So 58 we have finished. 59 and 60 now. Daksha paradayena hridaya na pashe kripa kare Mahaprabhu maji nama rase. Haridas Thakur is praying, oh Mahaprabhu, Mahaprabhu, please be merciful to me, kripa kare, so that the 10 offenses never touch my heart. Dasha aparadayena hridaya na pashe. They don't touch my heart, and I can always remain absorbed in the nectar of the holy name. Nama maji nama rasi. In fact, Haridas Thakur, when he began the 4th chapter of Sri Harinama Cintamani, starting with the first offense, Haridas Thakur is saying, oh Lord, I am very fearful about these 10 offenses. Let me never commit these 10 offenses. So like that, he prays, and then he starts describing the first offense, and then he goes into detail. Now again, the same mood is there, that let me not, be merciful that these 10 offenses don't touch my heart, and I can be in Namras. Now, what are the 10 offenses? From the Padma Puran, in the footnote, it is quoted, Satam Ninda Namna Paramam Apradam Vitanute, like that. Ei Bhakti Vinod Haridas Kripa Bole Harinama Cintamani Gaya Kutuhale. Bhakti Vinod is able to recite Harinama Cintamani. Harinama Cintamani Bhakti Vinod in great delight on the strength of Srila Haridas Thakur's causeless mercy. Haridasa Kripa Bale. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is Guy, Harinam Cintamani, he is reciting. Iti Shri Harinama Cintamani Aham Mama Bhava Aparada Vicharo Nama Trayodasha Paricheda. This thus ends the Harinam Cintamani on the 10th offense, Aham Mama Bhava Aparad, 13th chapter. Okay, let us see the points. There are only 3 slides. So we will quickly go through them and then take the question answers. If a devotee is honest in his relationship with Lord Krishna, he requests the Lord to help him chant purely and never commit any of the 10 offenses. Of course, for aspiring devotees lost in the deep well of ignorance, this prayer may seem a little presumptuous, as they would not artificially desire to be on a platform that they are not. But prayer is nevertheless an essential part in the devotee's progression. To pray to the Lord for unmotivated pure service to Sri Nam Prabhu is therefore recommended for all by the words in this text, in these 2 texts, in fact. An aspiring devotee may thus pray, my dearest Lord, being the greatest of the great and the kindest of the kind, you are known as the most magnanimous. Although I have no right to approach you directly, still by your kind mercy, you have appeared in your deity form so that I may attempt to serve you and communicate with you. Today, your humble servant bows down before you and prays for your help. I do not wish to ask anything material from you. However, I am in need of your help. My prayer is that you may kindly send along your great devotee to guide me to your lotus feet. My consciousness is steeped in ignorance of bodily identification, and I'm afraid of committing any of the 10 offenses to your holy name, especially the offense of blaspheming your devotees who have dedicated their lives for serving your lotus feet. Among all the 10 offenses, the first offense is the worst offense, and an offense which we commit casually in our conversations, in the assembly or in the association of Vaishnavas. Lightly we do this. My dear Lord, please help me to avoid the 10 offenses so that they never find a place within my heart. Although I am inexperienced in devotional service, and although I do not deserve your mercy, on account of my sinful behavior, still, other than you, I don't find no refuge or hope. Therefore, I beg to you to please sever means to cut, my ties with this false identification, which causes me to think that everything in front of my eyes is connected to me and causes me to want to possess it as mine. I and mine. I am this body. Everything related to the body expansion is mine. Such thoughts perpetuate my sentence in this prison house of Devi Maya. Sentence means not a sentence, English sentence. Sentence means you have been sentenced to death, like that, verdict is given. You have been sentenced in Devi Maya. Your loyal servant Maya Devi, who is doing a great service in binding me tightly through the invisible chains of sex desire, is far too powerful for me to conquer. Therefore, I am surrendering my life to you and begging for your help. My mind has been captivated by the glare of material illusion for so long now and is causing me to hanker after the temporary life after life. Please be kind to your surrendered devotee, dear Lord. Kindly grant me attraction for your name, which alone can save me from the endless drama of birth and death in the material world. We are doing a drama here in the material world, going through birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. To receive the mercy of a great devotee such as Srila Haridas Thakur, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Prabhupada, or Sri Gurudev enables a person to understand and preach the message of Shastra. It is therefore to be concluded that the mercy of the Vaishnavas is everything. So this ends the 13th chapter. Another meditation, Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Sharnagati has sung Ki Jani Ki Boli. If we sing that song and deeply reflect Ki Jani Ki Boli, Ki Jani Ki Boli, Tomar Dhamite, we know Sharnagata. This bhajan also we should regularly hear. Tumi Dayamay, Patita Pavana, Patita Tarane Rata. Tumi Dayamay, you are very merciful. Patita Pavan, you are merciful to the most fallen. Patita Tarane Rata, you are qualified. You have the strength to uplift the most fallen. Name ruchi di aparadha shami, Name ruchi diya. This is, I don't recollect the whole song. Aparadha shami, please forgive me for my offenses. Oh Lord, oh Nam Prabhu. Name ruchi diya, give me Name ruchi. So that's how this is another prayer which we should regularly sing this bhajan and reflect on the meaning and translation. So these two prayers are very important. One is from Sharanagati, Amara Jivan Sada Pape Rata, and Ki Jani Ki Boli Tomare Dhamite Hoinu Sharanagati. Okay, we just crossed 8 minutes more. Now we will take up question answers. Yes, Sunita Mataji, you had a question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, I had a question that since the devotees' children are also Vaishnavas, being harsh with them or for disciplining them, is it an offense, Vaishnava Aparadha?
We have to understand what exactly is a Vaishnava Aparadha. Disciplining our children or a spiritual master disciplining a disciple, that is quite different. Aparadha means, one wants to kill a Vaishnava. Hanti, Nindanti. Nindanti means criticize. Criticism is born out of envy. We are envious of the other Vaishnava and we criticize, we try to demean him, belittle him. Dveshti, we feel envious of his exalted position. And na abhinandanti, when another Vaishnava comes, we don't honor him. Krodha, Krodha means showing anger to a Vaishnava and not honoring respect to a Vaishnava. These are the 6 things which actually constitute Vaishnava Aparadha. This is mentioned in the Skanda Puran verse. Now, for parents to children and spiritual master to disciple, it is said just like not a carpenter, but a metal worker, when he's shaping a metal, when he's giving shape to a metal, he takes a hammer and the other side is a pad. He keeps on one hand inside the metal, he has a pad, and from other side he hammers. So by hammering, he gives shape to the metal and the pad acts like a cushion. Similarly, when the parents want to discipline the child, it's by hammering, but the cushioning is the love they give. Similarly, the spiritual master also, reprimands the disciple and also shows his love. By both ways, he molds the disciple to become a devotee, or a parent molds the child to become a good person, a gentleman. So it is required. And Chanakya Pandit also in his Chanakya Niti says, first 5 years one should, love the child. 5 to 15, he should be with the stick, tadayati. 15 onwards, the parent should be like friends to the, children. And then that is the best way. But after 5, if we still pamper the child and we don't discipline him, then later on it is very difficult. And he will never mold and he will become a problem to the parents. I hope this is clear.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Any other questions anyone has? Okay, so we'll stop here. Shri Harinam Cintamani ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai. Hare Krishna. So next week we will begin chapter 14, which is a short chapter, and a few points only have to be discussed. And after that 14th chapter, we will go to the Prayojan chapter 15, which is the last chapter of Shri Harinam Cintamani. It has around 90 verses, and it is going to be a long discussion. Not 90, in fact, it has 115 verses. So we will be quite deeply going into the confidential secrets of bhajan, which Bhaktivinoda Thakur has mentioned, how the progression internally will happen. That we will have an elaborate discussion. In fact, it will be a separate theme of discussion, chapter 15, and that will go for many sessions. Let us see how many sessions, but maybe 2 or 3 sessions are sufficient for chapter 14, which we will take up next week. Hare Krishna.